It's a BMW. It's an X5, you know. Isn't that X-Men First Class?
Hello and welcome back. Very quick video because I'm out in the X5, and just like I've done with a few of the other cars, I wanted to see what it's like MPG wise. Now unfortunately I forgot to record this little intro beforehand, so I'm just going to flip the camera around. So the X5 itself, my dad's brought it down because, as you know before, this is his car, and he'd driven it for 220 miles, actually 219 miles, 0.9 is what it was, so let's say 220, and I've just dropped him off at the Holiday Express in Stansted because he's going away. So I've just driven what's that, 75 miles, which has brought us up to 295.1. I'm about to drive back to Peterborough where I live, and as you can see on this journey it's used a small amount of diesel. Basically what I'm going to do is work out the difference between the miles that I've done, which was let's say 220, to now back to Peterborough, fill it up with diesel, because he'd literally filled the tank up just before he got to me, and then I've driven the car just to try and work out what the MPG is on this vehicle. And like the fact that I may have messed that up a little bit because I didn't do it right, what I'm going to do tomorrow is I'm taking the kids out to the zoo, which I believe I've also mentioned in another video. And the reason why I'm using this is because I think it's Woburn Safari, you know, the ones where the monkeys can climb around, and this one's got the old panny roof. And the benefit of the panny roof means that the kids, they'll be able to see the monkeys climbing on top. That's about an hour away, not sure of the mileage, I'll tell you about that tomorrow, but I'm going to do the same thing tomorrow. I'm going to work out what the MPG is to drive there, do a little cruising around there and about, and drive back. And well, he's left this with me for, or he will be leaving this with me for around about 2 weeks, so I might see what it's like MPG wise driving this vehicle around and about town as such. So yeah, let's find out what real world MPG is like on a BMW X5. Next time you see me, guess I'll be back at the petrol station filling this up to work out what the true MPG is from driving to Stansted Airport and back again. So pretty much exclusively dual carriageway and motorway driving. See you in a minute. Right, I've just pulled into the Tesco's after coming back from Stansted Airport, and as you can see I'm just about less than a quarter of a tank used, and I'm sat on 360.2 miles, so we're talking pretty much bang on 141 miles travelled in order to do all of this. I'm going to go fill it up with diesel now and see what it's like, and I'll come back to you once I've filled it up with diesel. I did say that I was going to take this to the zoo with my kids tomorrow, but I've remembered that this car actually still has a little bit of an oil leak, and I think it might be slightly irresponsible for me to take a car that's got a little bit of an oil leak into a drive around safari. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do it with a Kadjar because that also has a panny roof, and to be fair to it, it'll be good to find out what the MPG is of the Kadjar. So I'll see you in a minute once I've filled up the car with diesel. You now see me illuminated by the many lights within inside the BMW. To give you a heads up, so I've just filled up with, be able to see, well, you won't be able to see, you will be in a minute, there you go, you'll be able to see that I've got a full tank of diesel in there. Spin it back round to me because obviously you want to look at my face in this beautiful East Germany lighting. 17.76 litres at that princely sum of £1.40.9 per litre. I put in £25 and 2 pence, so 143 miles travelled on 17.76 litres. So I'll work that out when I get back home. FYI, this is the day after that I've done all the trips to Gatwick in the Passat, and then tomorrow I'll do the I'm gonna do the Kadjar, so I need to fill that up with petrol. I think I'll do that tomorrow morning, and then we'll see how many miles per gallon that is on that little cruise, which will be interesting. I'm still going to take the BMW though around for the next 2 weeks while he's away, because obviously I put my diesel in it, I might as well use my diesel for the next 2 weeks to see how much it uses. But yeah, other than that, I'll report back and let you know what the MPG is of it. See you in a minute. Super quick, I've just pulled in at the petrol station after 2 weeks of driving around. My trip computer is now on 738.5 and I've got just over a quarter of a tank left. So I'm gonna go fill up with a little bit of diesel, see how much money it costs me, and then the next step will be working out what the MPG calculations was for doing local driving. See how efficient the old Beamer was. definitely not the cheapest day at the pump. I ended up using 54.43 litres, still at the princely sum of £1.40.9. The prices of diesel have been relatively stable, which means this has cost me £77 thereabouts, or £76.69. So that was 54.43 litres worth of diesel used. Right, now I'm going to have to work out how many miles I've driven just using like around town. I have a feeling that this car is nowhere near as efficient as the VW, but we'll find out in a moment. And now we're in the office talking again about the X5. I don't know why I did it like that. It felt right to me. So I figure I'll go through the facts and figures so you got all the details, just to compare whether the WLTP, which actually, because this is a 2010 vehicle, it'll be the NEDC figures, are correct, which, based on previous challenges, they're probably not. So let's run through this. So when I picked up the car, it had 219.9 miles on the odometer. We drove to Stansted and we drove back. By the time I got back, there was 360.2 miles on the odometer, which meant that I drove 140.3 miles. So basically, on a long run, I did 140.3 miles. When I filled it up with diesel, it was 17.76 litres used, which is 3.9 UK gallons, which meant the MPG used on a long run, which is supposed to be when these engines are at their most efficient, was 35.97 miles per gallon. So let's say about 36 miles per gallon. Extra Urban states that it should be 42.2, which, taking what the NEDC figures say and taking what actually was achieved, it meant that it achieved 6.23 miles less than what you would have expected, or 6.2 miles less than what you would have expected, which meant it was a 15.9 to 16% difference. So what you actually achieve and what was advertised is a 16% reduction. So long story short, on a long motorway run, working at consistent speeds over what I considered a reasonable distance, so 140 miles, it massively underperformed. To have almost a 16% difference constitutes a huge margin of error, shall we say. However, it was a little different when we look at the local town run. So in town, once again, odometer started at the 360.2, so we started where we took off with the other one. I ended on 738.5 miles, which meant that I used 378.3 miles over the entire journey. And I'd used 54.43 litres of diesel used, which is 11.97 gallons. So for ease of numbers, I did 378.3 miles and I used about 12 gallons of diesel. The MPG on the local trips, I worked it out to be 31.6 miles per gallon, whereas the urban data on NEDC states 32.5 miles, which is a 0.9 discrepancy, or a 2.8% difference between what I should have got and what I did get, which I think in the terms of margins for error is a lot better. So it looks like when the NEDC figures were calculated out for this vehicle, which I would have thought was 2008, 2009, I'll see if I can double check that. If there's a number at the bottom, that means I did double check it. If there's not, I didn't. So long and short is, over long distance, no, this vehicle is not more efficient, not better on the dual garageways or motorways. In the local driving conditions, it actually achieved very close to its actual NEDC local or urban range, which was quite good. So yeah, I suppose this sort of flies in the face of diesel, really. Maybe it's because it's a 3 litre straight six as opposed to like a specific 2 litre 4-cylinder turbo, which is what everybody uses now. So yeah, bit of a shocking result for that one, really. But then again, we are talking about technology that's 15, 16, 17 years old, potentially up to 20 years old, in a vehicle that's rather quite heavy at a time where diesel was becoming the mainstream, but was not quite the full mainstream. But yeah, what are you going to do? I suppose that's also why they don't use the NEDC and it was replaced with WLTP, because it was not as effective at stating what the actual MPG was going to be for a vehicle over these prolonged distances. Still, I hope you found it interesting. It's a good reason why they got rid of NEDC. If you did like the video, then please, if you could give us a like. If you want to subscribe, please subscribe for a bit more content. Leave a comment if you've got any thoughts and feelings, or if you feel as though maybe the figures weren't quite right. I mean, they were, because I tested them, but maybe you've got better examples. Maybe you did different trips, maybe you did a longer trip, maybe you've done shorter trips. It would be interesting to know what MPGs that people actually got. But in conclusion, yeah, any DC is rubbish. The X5 is way less efficient on a long run than what you thought, but around town it's pretty much bang on, so you're gonna get what you're gonna get. Your DPF might not live very long, but you're gonna get what you're gonna get. Still, thank you very much. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.